go down the line and we're going to do introductions. Tiffany Little Canfield for Only Murders in the Building, Doctor Odyssey and Paradise. Tell us a little bit about how you got in the business.
I graduated from the North Carolina School of the Arts with a BFA in directing and moved to New York and had no idea how to get started. So I answered an ad on playbill.com to work on a play and luckily got my foot in the door and the rest is history.
Some of your favorite projects?
This Is Us. Baz Luhrmann's production of Puccini's La Boheme on Broadway, which was my first show. Across the Universe, and of course, Wicked.
Josh Einsohn, please tell us a little bit. You're on Doctor Odyssey and Paradise. Tell us a little bit how you got into casting.
I was a drama major, but it was more directing at Washington, St. Louis. I came out here and worked in production for many years, and that was my way to it was like a paid graduate school education. Thought casting looked fascinating, and it was. I got an internship. The first big TV show that I worked on was The West Wing, which is and was my favorite as a baby casting associate. Most recently, favorite projects, This Is Us, just adore, and then love Victor. I loved working on that show. Meant a lot.
We have Wendy O'Brien for Abbott Elementary.
Well, I was a rower at the University of Washington. I went there to row and worked out not somewhat. So then I did an internship in casting, another story, and loved it. Moved to Vancouver. So favorite shows, my first big was X-Files. The first season, second season, third season. So that was really cool. And then from then I was hooked. And then recently, definitely Abbott Elementary, the gift that keeps giving. It's just feel good. We need that. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Danielle Aufiero, tell us a little bit about Good American Family and how you got into the business.
Oh, okay. Good American Family. What do you want to hear?
We'll get into it.
Okay.
But tell us your story.
I got into the business because I thought I wanted to be an actor, and then my high school drama teacher did an on-camera day, and I said, that's not for me. So I did still love the art of acting, the craft of acting, and I thought to be a casting director would be the biggest dream. But I had two other career paths that were not quite as cool. And I was always the girl that was miserable at her job and complaining. And one day my friend's like, stop complaining. What do you want to do? What's your dream job? And I'm like, to be a casting director. And here I am. There's a lot more in between there, including being the oldest intern in the world back in New York. But I love all my projects equally. But and my business partner and I, Amber and I, the first movie we ever did together to start our business was Sound of My Voice, which got into Sundance. Yeah, I don't know, 2011 maybe. And it's an amazing movie that we hold deep in our hearts because that was a labor of love.
Seth Yanklewitz for Deli Boys. Tell us your story.
I got a BFA from NYU Tisch School of the Arts. I was an acting major who did not want to be an actor after semester one. But I suffered through it until my sixth semester when I did an internship at a commercial casting office in New York. That got me started. And then my first movie here as an assistant was Pearl Harbor, and sort of did that whole big movie world. And I've done it all. I've been an executive, studio network, all the things. So back to my casting roots. And just a shout out, my partner, Ben Pollack, my casting partner is here in the room, who also did Deli Boys. So, I guess my three favorite projects were New Girl, obviously, The Hangover,
Yes,
and probably Black Hawk Down.
And we're going to have Julie Ashton for Mid-Century Modern rounded out for us.
I mean, how do you follow these unbelievable people?
I know.
Right? It's like, first of all, I did not graduate from Tisch. I was thrown out of Arizona State after a year. Hand to God. And I came to Los Angeles because I love actors so very much. And I got an internship with Mike Fenton and Judy Taylor, and the rest is history. I cannot name a favorite. I really can't. It's like naming your favorite child, which I only have one, so I can tell you it's Judah. But
Sophie's Choice it, baby.
right,
Sophie's
right,
Choice
right,
it.
right. I'm gonna just say, really, truly, mid-century modern is not only the most recent show that I've done, but it is my favorite just for so many reasons. That's all.
It's my understanding that you guys kind of all know each other. Casting is a small world. I heard somebody used to be somebody's boss. Who's that?
Josh worked for me as an associate for 5 minutes and then went on to be bigger and badder. So I was a network exec at Fox, and I worked with Wendy and Alison. And then when I was head of casting at MGM, Tiffany and I did a movie together, and Amber and I did a movie together. So I wasn't really their boss in any way, shape, or form. I was their collaborator, but
It
we
seemed
do
like
all-
you were. Just kidding.
It was a great cast.
It is a small industry because Ben, who is now working with him as a casting director, started out as an assistant and associate with me. Like, it's very, yet we're all sort of professionally related.
Yeah. Josh was partners with my ex-partner. So yeah, it's all in the family.
Scandalous.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the big world of casting. It's this, this massive kind of black box that so many people are curious to see inside of. It's a cliche, but let's start with it. What's the biggest misconception about your job?
That we're mean.
Yeah, that we're not on your side.
That we don't want actors to succeed.
Yeah, no, it's
There's
the opposite,
so many,
right?
There's so many
I
misconceptions.
think that's the biggest one because, like, we need to know what your conceptions are to know if they're missed.
Well, and also it's the better you do, the better we do. If you come in and tank, then they think we don't know what we're doing. So if everybody walks through the door and everybody just like nails it, they're like, fuck, how do I decide? You're so brilliant. And you're like, well, actually, they're brilliant, but thank you. It's really like everybody that walks in, you want to knock it out of the park. And then you cast it in a day, which can be done.
Yeah.
Right.
You want the embarrassment of riches. You want everyone to be amazing, and then you have to choose which one. Well, we don't choose. Seth used to choose.
My eyebrows went up through my Botox.
Okay, so you're not mean. You want people to get the jobs that they want, and you want to cast the roles right. How can you tell when somebody walks into a room? Do you feel like you instantly make a decision, or is it really a longer process? Is that true?
It's definitely a longer process because when someone walks in the room, that's a first impression, which is really important, but that's not the only impression. I would say the audition matters a huge deal.
Great news for a lot of actors.
Yeah, it's sort of the thing. But yeah, no, the scene work, what you have found within the scene, how you have brought yourself and your artistry and your craft to it is really, really important.
I have this story I always tell people when that sort of question's asked. When I was doing Eastbound and Down, we had seen every girl in town for the role of April. They had a very specific visual that they wanted for the character, and we went through all the girls, and a girl came in, and the minute she came in, I knew it was gonna be her. But everything about like her attire, her hair, her makeup, even her like voice was wrong. And I was like, I'm obsessed with you. You're gonna get this. You need to go home and like take the makeup off, straighten your hair, don't dress like that. And seriously, and 11 auditions later, including like callbacks and rehearsals and tests, it was Katie Mixon. And that is how that happened. So I always tell people, actors, like, even if the first one doesn't go right, like we are always thinking and plotting and planning and like learning and rooting for you, and like we want you to be successful and we know how to get actors jobs. So
You're not auditioning for what you're coming in for. You're auditioning for everything we're ever going to do ever.
And no pressure.
But I think it's always, I think it also depends on the role. Like, yes, it's the audition, of course. But there have been the times, like when I was working on Love Victor and saw Every Kid in Town, Michael Cimino walked in the room, and I hadn't seen him act yet, but I was like, I wanted to hug him instantly, which was like sort of the most important quality for that character. And I thought, okay, if he can act that, like if when we get into the scene work, it works. And then it did. And we did the same thing. It was 1,000 auditions and we grinded him down. And yet he was still happy to be there. So yeah, it's fun when we sort of fall in love with the idea of somebody and then they live up to it and do the work and end up with the role. But yeah, it's always a process, and the need to be patient with the process, because sometimes it drags out and we have to have people back over and over and over again.
To that end, I have to ask, I assume 1,000 is a ballpark, but we've got 11. What's your record for the most auditions that you've been with an actor through?
Well, I did a Nancy Meyers movie. I don't believe the number exists.
So it can go on for a while. It can go on for a while. And it makes a lot of sense. Let's dig into the specifics of some of these shows, because we're representing a lot of different types of storytelling up here. And I'd like to start right off the bat with maybe the most kind of outlier project up here, which is you, Danielle, with Good American Family. Talk to me a little bit about the experience of bringing what's ultimately a true story to life, if people aren't familiar, talking a little bit about, kind of the backstory there, and ultimately landing on your newcomer, but also Ellen Pompeo and Mark Duplass. And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it is hard to bring a true story to life because you're always comparing. But with Natalia, it was such a challenge to find someone who can carry a series but also looks like 7 and looks like 22 through the span of the series, because you have to, the point of the show was they wanted the audience to be constantly guessing and not know. And so it was probably one of the biggest challenges I've had in casting. We started it a long time ago. It was a process. We had to find Natalia first before we knew we were going to get through the rest of the cast. And we searched worldwide because the story is she's adopted from Ukraine, so it was okay if she had an accent. And so we did this worldwide search and reached out to all sorts of Respectability was an amazing resource for us. And we eventually, Imogen was an actress in the UK and she had a rep. So we actually found her through her reps. And she would do these Zooms, and her dad was her reader. It was like the cutest thing in the whole wide world. Like he was this like old gruff British man, and he'd be reading with her. And she was very, very early on a front runner. I mean, but we still kind of ran the gamut because, again, at the time that we were casting it, nobody actually knew Natalia's real age. It was still in the courts. So we saw 7 to 22, like we saw the whole range. And to kind of figure out who could make both work. And it was very clear that the 7-year-olds couldn't pull off the 22-year-old part. So, and slowly throughout the process, Imogen rose to the top, and gosh, she's really killing it. She's really she put the work in, and she took it very seriously. And Mark and Ellen are amazing at they were just like such a good support system. I mean, Ellen came in and chemistry read with all the boys, like just to make sure everything was just right.
Truly, she's such an unbelievable legend in terms of television. When you see somebody like that walk into a room and you're talking about, a role like this, how do you see Meredith Grey disappear into a real woman? What's your process there?
Oh, that's on her. I think she's doing it.
But is there a creative, collaborative element to that?
It's more the studio kind of decision-making process and the network decision-making process. Ellen was attached before we came on, so that was kind of before our time, over our heads.
Seth, obviously, Deli Boys is not based on a true story, but we've talked a little bit about your showrunner's background and kind of your collaborative experience there. Swing us towards comedy. Tell us a little bit about Deli Boys.
Yeah, so Abdullah Saeed was a journalist for Vice, and he wrote about pot, drugs. And when I got the interview for the job, I spent like 24 hours having a history lesson because there's India, Pakistan, there was a war. The South doesn't speak to the North. And I had to understand the complications and be very specific about the type of actor, because people from Mumbai wouldn't be sort of with people from Pakistan or even northern India. And so I think Ben and I had done all this research, and in the meeting we talked about it, and I think that's probably why we got the job, potentially, because we sort of had done that extra work, which I don't know if it's extra work or just smart work. But then spending a lot of time with Abdullah, just hearing about stories of like just being a Muslim boy or growing up, or just his sort of like, you know, the sort of rough nature of being an other, right? And like in airports and all the things that we can imagine, especially after 9/11 when he was a kid. So, and then it was a comedy. So with, you know, Jenny Connor and Nora Silver, we basically just started the process of weeding out people who were not right from sort of where they were born or where they, you know, and let me tell you, like, everybody was like, oh no, I can do it. I'm like, you're Turkish. That's not even, no, you can't play this part. Like, so we had a lot of like deciphering of that to do. Anyway, it was great because I think the education and learning other cultures sort of was awesome.
When you're perceiving that kind of balance of trying to keep that authenticity, but then also find that humor, that's got to be its own kind of education, right?
Yeah, so we did a lot of like auditioning people and then being like, do you have an uncle or a grandparent that, and on this show specifically, we did a lot of it. We were like, you're great. Do your mom and dad want to audition? Seriously. And Marissa and Crystal, our Chicago casting, were like, we went to a restaurant and we asked every waiter and if they have a mom and dad. And we did that too. We went like up and down Westwood Boulevard. We went in the valley and we posted signs, I mean, which everyone does, like for searches and stuff. But like we just went deep into the neighborhoods where we thought, and you know, look, you find a needle in a haystack, right? You search and you search and you search, and then someone comes in, and I don't know that they know what they're doing, but they're so fucking funny that you're like, thank you. So, yeah.
We're going to double back and we're going to get more into some of the unconventional casting stories because I think that's of particular interest to people in this room. But in the spirit of you know, keeping things on the international side, I want to swing us over to Tiffany and Josh to talk a little bit about Doctor Odyssey, and then we'll talk a little bit about Paradise. Tell me a little bit about working on this show, casting something that ultimately has this rotating door of characters, and then working as collaborators.
Well, it started out just because of timing, that I kind of focused on the pilots, the first block, the 1 and 2, and then Josh really has been the leader the rest of the season. I would say that we were trying to have fun with what would a modern version of Love Boat be today. And that was really, really fun because we got to run the gamut of, and a show that's really driven by guest stars, you know, the guests on the cruise. And we'd hear rumors of themes coming down the pike. And we'd be like, oh boy, here comes plastic surgery week. LA is so ready for that. But, you know, it was really, and first started off with obviously Joshua Jackson was set, but, and Dawn, but finding Pippa, who was really meaningful for me because, you know, when I used to be in New York, we would work with the Juilliard class, and I remember her class, which is crazy talented. And so Pippa, we set her, and then Sean Teal, who our office has cast before, came in and just clobbered it for Tristan. And then we were off to the races, reading the guest stars and seeing which roles we thought might attract name talent, and who we thought would want to come on a trip on the ocean.
Yeah, it was fun to have a job to sell. It's like, hey, do you just want to come have fun? This is not a dark show. And I actually I remember sitting in the room when Ryan asked Tiffany before I was even on Doctor Odyssey yet. He's like, well, who do you think about this one part? And she's like, oh, I was really thinking about Pippa. And then 20 seconds later, she was cast. It's exciting working
Ryan
for
loves
somebody.
the theater.
He loves the theater, and he loves actors, and he knows talent really well. And as soon as he feels something lock into place, yes, that's it. Make that happen, and which is an exciting way to work. But yeah, it was a fun season also because there were no real. It's rare to work on a show where there's no real lane lines. So just who do you want to put? Who works for this part? Which is why Shania's on the show, Kelsey Ballerini, Bob the drag queen, who we adore. Margot Martindale, and then for me, we didn't have a script yet, so I had to pitch roles, and I called a couple managers and said, do you just want to relay it? And they're like, no, I'll just have them call you. So in one weekend, I got a phone call from Donna Mills and then Jacqueline Smith. And so cool. I was a big Charlie's Angels gay. So, and I'm just chatting with her. And then my toddler wakes up. So then we talk about our grandkids, or our kid and her grandkid. And I'm like, this is really happening right now. And I'm like, most shows, this does not happen. So creatively, the freedom, and then just some of the Kid Josh stuff that I'm having a great time on that show too.
Let's switch to your other project and talk about how your collaboration changed in those two settings and what it's been like for you guys to work on Paradise. Again, major names with Sterling K. Brown, James Marsden. It's, you're more in a political thriller space, so it's definitely darker than fun plastic surgery times on a cruise ship. But how did it change your teamwork?
That one was easy because that's a team we've worked with, on This Is Us, and we worked on that show together. So that was like going to the family reunion, I would say.
Yeah, for the two of us fitting in with them, we knew their process and we know how they think, and creatively, it was just easy. I mean, I should not say easy, but that I take that back. But in terms of working with them, it was, and very familiar and comfortable, and we know their taste and they know ours. And I still remember the Zoom we were on with Dan when he said, I think it's Julianne Nicholson. And I don't know what Tiffany said anymore because of that Zoom thing. I just remember saying, go fucking get her. And then I was like, you shouldn't say that to your boss, probably. But that's what came out of my mouth. So we have similar taste, and we're excited to get to go after people like that. And then they're on set and they show up. That one's been, we've had a good year. These have been really fun projects to work on. Very different. Like she was saying, Doctor Odyssey is the guest of the week, and Paradise is really world building. Every episode, you're building out the world, which I also think is really cool.
How does that ultimately impact the way that an actor should prepare? If they know that they're entering a world that's being built versus entering something that's more in the procedural space, that's more episodic, does that impact the way they should approach a character?
No. I think that it's all given circumstances. No matter what, if you're auditioning for a commercial, what office are you in? Are you in an office? What kind? IBM or a small insurance company? All of those details inform the world, right? But with something like Paradise, it's so highly secretive. You really have to take leaps of faith. That's what's different for the actors. You will not be given any material that tells you very much about the world you're creating. So you actually cannot prepare for that. Instead, you have to just look at the circumstance, the characters in, who are you talking to, relationships, and what information have we given you. Use that and your imagination.
Yeah, I would say and this applies again to anything that you're working on. A lot of actors get, I don't know if it's nerves or what, but they blow past some really important context clues. And it's right there on the page for you, especially when we can't tell you much because it's secret. Like, okay, but we've told you this much. And then when you miss one of the things that is really sort of crucial, I feel like you've really missed an opportunity if you haven't dug all the way into just the slug line. What kind of room are you in? Like, it can be that simple, and when people miss it, everything is a little wobbly after that.
Let's talk more about world building, and let's talk about bringing some worlds together with Abbott Elementary, Wendy, and what has happened this season with It's Always Sunny. Talk to us a little bit about that incredible meeting of the minds and what that was like for you.
Well, I wasn't there, but I had the good fortune of I've cast It's Always Sunny for 17 seasons. So when I heard the rumors and was hearing the whispering of those two coming together, I mean, it was such good fortune that they were both a show that I work on. And then I think we were all just waiting to see how that would cross-pollinate, and we will see the other side because they then go to Sunny where they can drop F-bombs and have a completely different experience than Sunny having to be neutered on Abbott. So that was really fun. And as soon as because they're both in the Disney IP, so as soon as that started coming together, there was definitely the version they shot was not the original version or the original pitches, but it was just a really wonderful cross-pollination of great people and horrible people.
You said you're in the process of working on season 5 now, but with season 4, talk to me a little bit about the experience of making sure that you kind of don't break the formula that you have when you have such an incredible cast and you've created such a beloved kind of community. How do you make sure when you bring in, say, new family members, new staff members, new love interests, perhaps, what that looks like for you?
I mean, we cast a lot of children, so that is a formula in itself, how we sort of go through that process. And that doesn't change from episode to episode because that is a very common denominator on our show. And, a lot of the kids that are extras eventually can get upgraded and vice versa. We'll so we work with extras a lot and communicate with them for specific episodes. But I think the show has its rhythm and the show has its a very specific taste and the comedy, because we are, addressing the camera, we are addressing the film crew in the story. So there's a certain rhythm to the show. And I think now that it's been on, I mean, it's so hard I'm sure when you're doing Paradise, like if the show hasn't aired yet, it's so much harder for actors to know how to prepare and to know what the tone is. Now, when we audition kids, they're all wearing blue shirts, collared shirts for their auditions. Like, people know the show now. So when they come in, they know the rhythm already. They know the tone. It's much easier than when we were doing the pilot and nobody knew. It hasn't aired. So that's a whole nother for actors to sort of how do you do your homework if it's not already on? It's a little bit more challenging, and especially if you're not given a script or you can't get a hold of the material, which we shot Abbott during the pandemic. We were casting it, and so everything was remote and exploration. Everything was new, a new way of doing everything at the time.
We're going to jump to Julie with Mid-Century Modern next, but first, really quick, is anybody here in the room the parent of a child actor or manager of a child actor? Anybody? All right, so for this one person in the back, make it quick. What's a number one piece of advice you have if you're representing your child in an audition?
If they don't want to go, don't make them.
Please, please. Your child will come in our casting room and tell us they don't want to be there. It happens all the time.
In the spirit of legends, I would love to talk about Mid-Century Modern and the way that show has come together. Tell me a little bit, Julie, about how you came to the project first and what it meant for you to work with Nathan Lane and Matt Bomer and such an incredible cast.
So I had worked with Max Muchnick and David Cohan and obviously Jimmy Burrows on Will and Grace and lots of other projects. And when they told me about Mid-Century, immediately I said, oh, we have to do this show. It's going to be a hit. And so who else could be Bunny Schneiderman but Nathan Lane, right? It's just like a no-brainer. And Nathan was a hero of mine. When I was 18 years old, I saw him in Present Laughter on Broadway. And to this day, and also obviously the producers and everything. So he was just an idol of mine. Maddie Bomer had done Will and Grace for us, and we were blown away by how funny he was. You know, we were like, that man is kissed by God because he is gorgeous and hilarious. And then Nathan Lee Graham was sort of the toast of Broadway, and we had a chemistry read between Nathan Lane and Nathan Lee. Yes, we have two Nathans. And it was just magic, you know, it was just lightning in a bottle. And then, of course, you know, to play Nathan's mother, Linda Lavin was the first and only name that came off the top of our heads. And it was also really, really exciting for me to be able to work with Ryan Murphy, you guys, because I'd never worked with him before. And to my knowledge, I don't think he'd really done a comedy. And it could not have been a more collaborative and beautiful group to work with. And we literally got all of our first choices yeah. I mean, that doesn't happen every day, right? And I think it was just, as we Jews say, b'sheret. It was just meant to be.
Julie, you mentioned the legendary Linda Lavin, who passed last December at 87. She was an Emmy nominee in 1979 for the show Alice. And I know that you told me working with her meant a lot to you. What did it mean, and what was the process like of you know, bringing this role to screen and playing such a big part in her final performance?
Well, you know, I was 11 when Alice came out, and I just loved it. It was so ahead of its time, right? She was a single mom, and she was just incredible. And I loved comedy. I loved actors. She was truly everything to me. And so when Linda accepted and she became a part of our family, it was hard to even envision the show without her. And so we were 7 episodes in. Oh, but by the way, when you meet your idol, they always say careful, right? What you wish for. She was everything I always wanted her to be and more. By the way, my mother taught me to do this in case you know. I don't know. Always put a tissue in your ear, you're gonna cry. Thanks, Mom. So she was the kindest, most amazing person. She was beyond what I ever hoped and wished she would be. She knew every single cast and crew member's name. I remember when I first met her, I was so nervous. I was like, Miss Lavin, you know, thinking, oh, a diva. And she was like, Julie, darling. And she'd leave me voice messages, Julie, darling, it's Linda Lavin. To this day, I saved them all, obviously. But I couldn't believe I was working with somebody who was even more than what I'd hoped for. And same with Nathan, you know, and Maddie and Nathan. And it was December 29th, and we found out Linda had suddenly passed. And I will tell you this, 10 days before we were shooting, and it's a multicam, and it's grueling. And that woman was on high heels at run-throughs, running around, had every single line memorized. She was incredible. And so it was a very big shock to us, obviously, when she passed. And then December 29th, that happened. And then the fires happened on January 7th. And it was just, honestly, the hardest and darkest time for us all, I think, to get through, for all of us, for so many reasons. It's the most difficult thing in the world to have to wrap your brain around losing somebody who has become your family and one of your closest friends. And also, you got a show to make. And Linda, I know, we all heard her saying the show must go on, because that's who she was, right? The biggest pro we've ever worked with. And I'm so proud of the team that we all came together, and we somehow were, because we had 7 episodes that we'd done, we still had 3 to do that Linda were in. So we had to come back and you know, reframe all the episodes, rewrite, recast, and I think that's one of my proudest moments of being associated with a group like I was with Mid-Century. I alluded earlier to that. It's a really special project to me. And I think that's why, because we just came together and we made it happen. And I don't know if anybody's seen this, but if you watch episode 9, we actually address Linda's passing in it. You know, because people say, oh, we're going to replace Linda. Are you kidding me? Like, you're going to replace Linda Lavin? So to me, I'm very proud that we were able to get through it. I still miss her, as you can see. She became like a sister to me. And immediately when I met her, she said, you're my family. And she would have my son and me for holidays and to be sitting there with your icon, right? I was like pinching myself. And so anyway, we miss her every single day. The show will never be the same without her, but I'm really, really proud of the way that the writers and, oh my God, the actors, you know, because they loved her so much. And to have to do an episode where we're talking about her passing when she really passed, you know, it was, to me, one of the most magical television episodes I've ever seen in my life. And I'm really, really proud of everybody involved. I got through it.
It is a wonderful thing for your heroes to live up to expectations, and we gotta mention Only Murders in the Building. Talk to me a little bit, Tiffany, about the show and what it has meant to be bringing people in. Molly Shannon, Meryl Streep. What is it like for you?
I mean, it's a dream. It's bucket list. It's like it's a show where your bucket list, which is supposed to, you know, take your entire career to get. You're just like, well, that was season 3.
How were their auditions?
Actually, what's weird, their auditions were not that good, but the negotiations, I'll never forget. No, I'm kidding. We do tears, but it's still painful because, you know, when you do a tear, they want to get you later with that lawyer the night before you shoot. But yeah, so yeah, no, that show is like a dream. It's a total family. John Hoffman, the creator of the show, who created the show, was Steve. It's my first time working with him. And he is from the theater, so he loves all the New York theater people the way I do. And so that's just like we're kids in a candy store shooting in New York. And everyone wants to come play because Marty and Steve are icons of comedy. I mean, really, 3 amigos. I mean, come on, it's just crazy. And then their chemistry with Selena is something so unexpected and crazy. Like, it's really a family. Like, they crack each other up, and it was very funny. At the SAG Awards, I had the luck to be invited, which is pretty rare. And I was at the Wicked table, and when Marty won, I like jumped up and started screaming. And Peter Dinklage and Jeff Goldblum looked at me like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, that's my show, and we never win. We never win. And then when they won Best Ensemble, and Selena got up and she's like, we never win. That got a big laugh at our table because everyone was like, but it is. It's I don't know. It's freaking heaven. Gosh, sorry, I'm having a small stroke. Like Jackie Hoffman. Yeah. Just Jackie Hoffman, who plays Uma, if you don't know her. Like all of those people.
The name dropping up here is unreal. We got to wrap it up because we're running close on the end of time. So we're going to do a rapid fire round out here, okay? So we're just going to hit it really quick, as quick as you can. What is either a show or person, like something you would like to adapt, or a person who you are dying to cast? Who's somebody you either want to find a role for or a story that you want to cast top to bottom?
Oh, I'm going to go because I have one that's been in my brain for a very long time. Tom Hulse, I'm dying.
Oh, that's a good one.
Amazing.
Dying to cast.
That's a good one.
Anybody else?
Yeah, well, I was like very different lanes. I'm dying to get Linda Carter on Doctor Odyssey because again, like kid Josh is like, oh my God, Wonder Woman. Dying a little bit. And then I've actually worked on 2 shows with Allison Janney, and I can barely speak when I am around her. If she remembers me, it's as that sweet slobbering boy from casting who drools every time I walk in the room. I would love to say someday that I cast her.
Sandra Hüller.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
That's to me. I don't even know how that could happen, but I would. She's to me just blew me away. What a year.
Yeah.
Right? For those 2 performances. Incredible.
I'll just say I have a fantasy of casting a project, and the director and producer in the studio say, "You pick," and I'd just be like, "Oh my God, Fuck yeah. So that's really my dream. Is I want to pick everybody for the role.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that.
You've had it too good for too long, Seth.
I mean, someone I'd like to work with again. Can I say that? Who
Sure.
I think was like the fucking most amazing actress ever to work with. She is a badass, with Sandra Bullock. And even though the movie I did won her Razzie the same year she won her Oscar, I am just gonna go on record as saying, like, she is amazing. Everything you think she is and more.
Just, we've all been so lucky to work with so many people, right? So it's so hard. Again, it's Sophie's choice, like you said. One of my favorite actors on the planet is Alfred Molina. And I don't know why. Somehow I've never been able to meet him or cast him or anything. Yeah, look, Tiffany's like, hello, I'm best friends with Alfred Molina.
Saying you can get him if he's available. He loves to work.
Okay, well, I'm going to work on that,
Go
Tiff.
get him.
I'm seeing his performance in
Here's
Boogie
the
Nights.
pitch. He should date Nathan Lane.
That was going to be my pitch.
Fun on that
totally.
Okay, I like that
Writer's
you're
credit.
Now my partner on Mid-Century Modern, apparently. But his performance in Boogie Nights, to me, was like one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. And I just love all of his work, and I'd love to work with him. And I haven't. So there.
Down the line, one word, weirdest place that you have found an actor.
Weirdest.
Dick and Jenny's in New Orleans.
Ooh.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Say.
A roller rink.
A bar in Juneau, Alaska.
An ice skating rink.
Pavilions.
And last question, one word to describe what you were the most excited about with the future of casting.
Oscar.
And when you guys get up and win your Oscars, don't forget to thank casting directors who cast you.
Right. That's right, Danielle.
Or any award.
Or any award.
Anyone want to end us? Something exciting?
Oh, I think Oscars is all of our answers.
It's Oscars. It's Oscars. Well, this has been the 98th Academy Awards. Thank you guys so much for joining us for the Disney casting panel. We will be back with another Pass the Remote panel on April 15th. That is with composers. Again, please give it up for our panelists. Thank you all.